Welcome to the Beyond the Vines podcast, where I interview local business owners in Sonoma County to highlight small business and grow our community. I'm your host, Amy Ehlers, a mom, realtor, and Sonoma County native, and I'm excited to connect you to some amazing people in this beautiful area that we call home. Welcome back to the Beyond the Vines podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. As I mentioned last week, I do have a weekly real estate newsletter that has local events in it, as well as market updates, real estate updates, and a lot of great tips. I've been getting some great feedback on my newsletter, so if you'd be interested in joining the mailing list, please just send me a DM, and I'll make sure that I start getting that sent out to you today. But welcome back, and I'm very, very excited. Even though I'm doing 75 hard, I am very excited to have Gianna Fugazi here. She is a passionate winemaker and adventurer, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about her before we dive into the interview. At just 18, Gianna began her journey as a chocolate consultant, discovering the art of pairing wines and chocolates, two of my favorite things. Her curiosity led her to Sonoma State, where she pursued dual degrees in winemaking and archaeology, even studying ancient alcohol excavation in Italy, which I need to know more about. That sounds incredible. Facing a choice between a PhD in archaeology and a winemaking career, Gianna chose the latter. Her first harvest in 2012 was known for its challenges, cemented her love for winemaking's pace and experimentation. In 2015, she founded Wanderlust, a winery dedicated to crafting unique wines and experiences. Gianna's wines reflect her deep curiosity, featuring rare grapes from around the world with minimal intervention. Beyond a tasting room, Wanderlust hosts wine and food pairings, bringing wanderers together to explore wine's history. Gianna's goal is to continuously provide new wine experiences to consumers. Join us as we delve into Gianna's adventurous winemaking journey on today's podcast. So welcome, Gianna. I am so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Fugazi, that's right.
Okay, well, I'm Italian too, so
Yeah.
that's why I felt like I was probably getting it right.
Yeah, no, you got it.
Okay, good. Well, welcome. I am so excited to have you here today. Can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind starting Wanderlust Wines and what makes it so unique in the wine industry?
Okay, so I originally started my first internship and winemaking career at Flowers Winery.
Awesome.
And I did a lot of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, which I am now returning back to making.
Wow.
And Wanderlust really started because I wanted to try different grapes that I hadn't had my hands on before, and also different winemaking techniques. So as you know, Flowers, the brand, is very hands-off. And so when I started doing trials for them as their assistant winemaker, I started thinking about how I'd like to make small batch wines and try new things, whether it be the oak or the grape sourcing. Like Verdelho is one of the first grapes I worked with.
Wow.
And that's a very interesting white grape that I ended up making for Maker, the canned wine company.
That's right.
Yeah, and they did pretty well. I think with their Sunset, they put it through Sunset Magazine, and it got 96 points, if I recall.
That's incredible.
Which is crazy for a canned wine.
And
you know?
amazing for you. Like, that's amazing.
But
yeah.
it's fun. I kind of, like, for me, I love being in, like, an established wine space, but I also love experimenting, and that's what Wanderlust is for me. It's about education and experimenting, and then I work with, like, small groups of people that I talk about wine, and I can tell them why I did this little thing, you know? So
I can feel like the passion when you're talking about this.
Yeah.
And also I'm just thinking to myself, like, you have an incredible career. Like, that is so fun.
For me, winemaking's cooking.
Yes.
And so I always go back to the idea of, like, oh, I'd love to have, like, a wine food bar or some sort of, like, even a
amazing.
food truck. And, like, I'll come up with all these weird food ideas.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, but food, restaurant is, like, constant harvest.
Yes.
And at least with wine, we're, like, have one vintage
Right.
specific time period.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I feel for all the restaurant people.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Like,
Yes.
such a challenge. Although I do love your food truck idea, and I'm trying to figure out how we can make this work for you, because I would like to eat at your food truck.
Yes, it would be Wanderlust. So must is also the fermentation.
Oh.
So the grape must and tank. And then recently I found out, because I wandered into the cider making world,
Which you
that
brought with
right
us today,
here.
which I'm excited.
It's also the apple must, or the apple
Oh,
juice
I
they
never
call
knew that.
must.
Yeah.
So
I never knew that term.
yeah.
Great.
I found out when I decided to experiment with cider, and I was like, oh, I guess I named my brand
Right.
specifically to go in this direction.
That's so cool.
By chance.
Yeah.
So,
That
yeah.
is amazing. What values and principles, like, really truly guide your winemaking process? And how does that translate into the wine? We've talked about that a little bit, but I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, there's, wine is an interesting space. I think a lot of people think it's very romantic, and that's how we like to portray it. But then also when you go into, like, I worked in the supplier side where I was working with big clients and they would need to buy product for their wine. And there's an interesting perception with wine, and the decisions that people make are very driven by, like, their ethos as a winemaker. So they're either going to be really vineyard focused and picking the grapes at the right time because they have that control and that's how they want to build their wine program, or they're going to be very, like, formula focused and they want the wine to taste the same every year.
Interesting.
So if the wine tastes the same every year, it's highly possible that the wine's manipulated by a lot of other things. And we love sugar. We love oak, right? I don't know if you've noticed a lot of wines, especially in the red wine world, are a little bit more oaky than I would say they were a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And that's just to tell you, like, products that are available for winemakers are allowing them to easily adjust.
Interesting.
So I kind of seen the dark side and the bright side.
Yeah.
And I personally, I will try a trial, but for me, the vineyard is always first. Picking the grapes at the right time is always first. So I don't tend to add a lot of things to my wine.
Interesting.
So I will try different types of oak, like American oak or French oak or Hungarian.
Right.
But I'm going to experiment either with a native yeast strain, or I'm going to use a yeast strain that was isolated from a specific area. So I kind of like to, depending on the vintage, since I have single vineyard wines and one lot wines, I don't really have the option to blend it out with other things. So I don't tend to add things, but it is interesting when you talk about wine because a lot of people don't talk about those things.
No, and I did recently think about, what it is that we're drinking as well. It did, because I am very careful, like, about my food, but I'm not as particular about, like, wine.
Yes.
What is added to it? What is in here? And I definitely, it's popped in my head recently, so it's interesting to hear you say that.
The European market for wine this year now, they're requiring a QR label on their label.
Oh, wow.
And any wines made in Europe or sent to Europe, like from an American producer, will have to have an ingredient and nutrition panel.
Interesting, because that's not currently on there.
That's not here.
Yes.
And so that's going to be interesting for our market.
Really
is. I don't know if people would want to know if a wine has, like, 25 things in it.
I would now, because I had this thought before our conversation, but very recently I would now, but maybe, like, a few months ago I would be like, it's probably better I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
like those odd facts you read as a child where it's like a chocolate bar can have a certain amount of spiders in it. Do you remember those scare tactic facts?
Yes, I totally remember that. Maybe that's what I should tell myself during 75 Hard is, like, could be spiders in this wine. I don't need it.
Well, there is no such thing as a vegan wine. We don't wash grapes. So,
interesting. Very good point. There is definitely something
I wouldn't consider wine vegan at all. So,
that is so true.
Yeah, drink water.
Drink water. Drink water. Yeah. So your website mentions that wanderlust wines are adventurous wines for adventurous spirits. Can you elaborate on what this means and how it's reflected? And again, I think it kind of builds back to what we were just talking about.
I started. I don't have a tasting room, and I'll probably launch again some sort of Airbnb type experience. And that's where I started. I was doing wine and food pairings.
Oh, I love that.
And that's how I was, like, communicating with people. And now I currently work with Backroads. So I do about 50 tastings for them a year. And it's great because each tasting is about 15 to 25 different people.
That's amazing.
And so I just feel like I'm, like, spreading the word of like wine education. So for me, I've really kind of just navigated through this, like, really one-on-one experience. And now it's time for me to focus on the bigger picture. And it's tasting room or it's a very, curated wine club where I was thinking about adding different wines of my friends, and just kind of
great idea.
Having, like, a fun approach.
Yeah.
This is probably why I haven't started a wine club, honestly, is because I get bored drinking the same wine over and over again. And if I love craft beer, right? And I love craft cider, and
Right.
mainly because they're always offering you something different or a little tweak to this or that. And so like I want to do that with wine as well.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
What a unique like take on all of this. It's really it's great.
I think as I'm a wanderer, I
Yes.
guess.
Yes, which I love.
Yeah.
How do you source your grapes, and what role? I know location is really important to you.
Yes.
What role does that play in the flavor profile of your wines?
So, like from my experience with flowers, picking is the most important thing first, right? And then the soil or where the grapes grow, like are they the right varietal for that area? Like my Verdelho and Suzal I worked with are Portuguese varietals, and I got them from a really nice little tiny producer in Lodi who only has like 12 acres total of his vineyard. And like that's mixed plantings, not just that. So they have the warmer nights, and that's like what you need. But like for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, I have a Green Valley sourcing and a Cazadero one. And the Cazadero sourcing is Bohan Vineyard. And I've been on a wait list. Like I was on a wait list for about 5 years before I could get the fruit.
Wow.
And I've been working with the fruit for about 2 years now. And I share the vineyard with some friends.
So cool.
And like George and Nikki Bohan are really cool people.
Yeah.
And so like I like to have relationships with my growers.
Yes.
My dad's a farmer. He grows cherries.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I respect farming because it is a full-time job and it is a gamble.
Yes.
And at least at the end of the day, I can still make alcohol from the grapes.
Exactly.
No matter how the farming, like we want an ideal harvest.
Right.
But like my stress of making alcohol isn't as stressful, I think, as farming the whole year.
Yes,
so,
I would agree. That's so true. Yeah.
So
that's a really hard field.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes, hard field.
That is really interesting. So you get your grapes from different locations. Where are you producing this wine?
In Sebastopol.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you have like a production facility, or you rent one?
It's a custom crush.
Oh, okay.
And so it's kind of like a co-op space, which is pretty popular now for a lot of brands to be in that type of space.
Yeah.
Which is also why some winemaking decisions are driven by where you're making wine, right? You have to read the room, right? You want to make sure your custom crush space is a very clean facility.
For sure.
And, it's like a kitchen, right? Yeah. So everything is the same, like, I don't know cleaning that you would want for a kitchen. So.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I would assume, too, that's probably more economical, too, to have that kind of co-work space rather than having
having your own wine
production.
space. You need to have a cellar team and all the management when it comes around to like bottling and just getting like certain equipment.
Right.
So it's having your own winery is definitely a whole nother ballgame.
Different ballgame.
Yes.
Do they still have like the mobile production facilities? I remember a long time
mobile
ago.
bottling lines.
So that's what it is. More of like a bottling.
Yeah. So
do you use that at all?
Alridge has a bottling line there.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So that's what's kind of nice about that facility. Bottling is, I actually really love bottling. A lot of people hate bottling because it's just tedious and like something always goes wrong, like whether it be the label not going on right or the glass, and everyone likes to blame the other person.
Right.
But I like bottling because it's like the last time you touch the wine, like
from a look at that
way where like you actually have contact with it, and then after that it's sealed up and you're just pouring it. So
that is like a really special way to look at that. And it's so funny to think about. For me and I'm sure for most of my listeners, like we don't think about all the behind the scenes and all that goes into it, like the heart that goes into it, but also like all the hands, all the people, all the trial and error, like the different systems. Like it's pretty amazing to me. So
a lot of trial and error. I really wanted to make white port this year, and I wanted to make white port last year.
Yes.
And last year the power went out, so the fermentation kept going, so I couldn't fortify it at the right time. And then this year I fermented the white grapes too cold. I didn't want to fortify it. So it's like, it's going to be hopefully next harvest. I figure
2024 harvest, there might be a white port.
I hope so. I feel like
fingers crossed because I've never had a white port.
Oh, white port's really interesting.
That is so
It's
cool.
really good with tonic and a little mint in it.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
It's amazing. It's kind of like, it's a great little, it's like if you like vermouth soda type stuff.
Right.
Like it's just like a nice little lower alcohol drink.
Wow.
So.
I love that. I love that. So what are some of the key challenges you face in the wine industry and also as a female winemaker? I just like to touch on that.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I feel like there's definitely a lot more women out there in our winemaking field, which is great. I grew up with 2 brothers. So when someone asks me about winemaking and being a girl, like I get super competitive. Like, of course I can make wine like a guy, you know, like, or he can make wine like a girl.
There you go. I like that.
Like I definitely have that like a little internal struggle sometimes because I don't really know what makes me a good winemaker other than like tasting things, smelling, kind of having that like multitasking approach to wine.
Probably attention to detail too.
Yeah. And like just being able to operate under chaos, which I'm a mom. So I think once you have kids and you can, you know, that's a great skill to have.
You can really take on the world at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate the women who have supported me throughout this growing process. Like I'm at Flowers again right now, just helping them out because Chantal, who's the winemaker there, is like one of my mentors. And like whenever I can pay it back, like I feel like everyone can help everyone. And there are definitely a lot of women who've supported me to get here.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love hearing all that. That's amazing. Do you have like any memorable stories or experiences you'd like to share with us?
And just in general?
Let's say in general, but
with
that have
wine?
made, that like kind of stand out to you or have had an impact on you or your business.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, there was for me, I really enjoy the cork indry.
I was thinking about that when you were saying bottling. I was like, there's like a whole nother aspect of this, so that you enjoy the cork part.
Yeah, I like asking questions and finding out like, you know, how things are made. Like I worked for a glass manufacturer for a little bit.
Interesting.
And then I worked for a company that sold like corks or screw caps. And so I really fell in love with the cork industry because I was sent there by a company. Yeah. As a like trying to like they send the winemaker, you know, and to see their facilities. And I had this crazy thing happen. Like it's like almost unbelievable. It was either my first harvest at Flowers in 12. It was like we were just working so crazy. 2012 was like crazy harvest. And I went down to the beach and like to have my like release. It was in Cazadero, so we're right there at Jenner. Right. And I look in the driftwood and there's a cork just on the beach. And so I was like, I picked it up, put it in my pocket. I was like, that's random. Yeah. Right? And then I 2 years later, I realized it was from M.A. Silva, which is a cork company because it had its logo on it. Oh. So I sent a picture to my rep, right, who sold us corks. And then I don't hear from her. I was like, okay, wonder, I guess she didn't like my picture of the cork on the ocean. Like, I don't know. And then I go to Portugal, like about, I'd say 3 years after that. And I mentioned to M.A. Silva, the facility there, like, oh, yeah, I randomly took a picture of your guys' cork I found on the beach. Yeah. And he's like, that's you? What? Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, we used that picture for all of our marketing in Europe. We're wondering who the person was that took a picture of this cork on the beach.
Are you kidding? That's incredible.
Yeah. So I was like,
what a full circle moment.
Yeah. And then I felt like, oh, I always have been attracted to cork because it's like a 200 to 300-year-old forest. Right. The cork trees regenerate the cork. It really is the most green sustainable product, like really green. Yeah. Right. Like I know people talk about like, oh, I have a lighter bottle or I used less packaging. Right. Right. But like the more we support like the cork industry, I think as an industry in general, like we're going to be doing a lot better for our world. So
that is really so interesting to think about. And that kind of brings me to like, what's better, screw top or cork? But I guess I know the answer.
Honestly, I can say it. And I mean, I don't sell them anymore. So I don't sell screw caps anymore. So
there you go.
No. It's a lot of people focus on like what's green or not in the wine industry. And it's usually used to like get a consumer to buy something, honestly.
Yes, for sure.
But we have, now we're required to have CRV, like bottle deposits on our labels this year. Great. So like I ask the question, not only as a consumer, but as a producer, like how is our recycling set up, right, really to function? Right. So in reality, like you should be removing the foil.
Oh my gosh, really?
You should be taking the cork out.
I mean, of course, I didn't really think about all that.
Yeah.
What about the labels? The label okay still on?
So
you should be washing it off?
This is the question that I don't have the answer to.
Yeah.
Like if you look at a recycling bin, like go look, it's all the wine bottles are all clear, no label, no screw cap on them. They have a screw cap bottle with just the threading, but there's no label or anything on it. So the question really is, I ask, is it going to a landfill because it has attachments on it?
I love like your perspective on everything because these are all the things that I don't think about. I put my bottle in the recycling bin.
Like, I overthink it. So.
No, but it's so true. It's really interesting. That's a very good point.
I have a really fun client who we started a wine. Well, I researched and made the wine for her. She had the idea to make a spicy rosé.
I tried your spicy rosé. Yes.
And she wanted to do a screw cap.
Yes.
And I said, okay, go ahead and call all the facilities, see if they recycle them. And she couldn't find a solid answer. So I was able to push her to cork.
Perfect.
So, yes.
That was a good spicy rosé, by the way.
It's definitely fun.
It's so different. I mean, have you has anyone ever made a spicy rosé?
Stella Rosa's doing spicy wine now. But it's not really spicy to my knowledge.
Got it. Okay.
We actually ferment peppers and put that pepper wine into the rosé.
So cool.
So it's not there's no weird extract or flavor that's artificial in it.
Right.
So,
Wow. I wanted to see your label. The first time I met you, I noticed your label instantly, and then I kept hearing other people at the event we were at asking you about the label. Can you tell us about the label? Who designed it? What inspired it? All of that.
So Kurt, who's a label designer, he and I came up with this concept. We had a lot of different ideas going around, but for me, it was the X and going in different directions.
I love that.
I wanted it to be a little bit more geometric and not so feminine because wanderlust, obviously makes you think of wanderlust.
Right,
which
exactly.
I actually have I do not like that word,
Isn't
wanderlust.
That funny? And then, because it does make me a play on it.
Yeah, I tried to figure out what to call it. I was like, wanderlust will be the company name. Right. I was like, I'm not going to come out with Gianna Fugazi as my first wine brand.
Right.
I'm so cool. I'm not I can't just come out
I'm
with
drinking
that.
a Gianna Fugazi.
Gianna Fugazi. So I tried really hard and I just couldn't get it out of my head.
Yeah.
And so the X was kind of my way of showing different directions.
Right.
And then I thought about the placement of the label is really important.
Yes.
And majority of wine brands that are
higher,
they're here in the center.
Interesting.
So it's just one label.
Wow.
And I kind of thought if you had your bottle on a shelf, your eye goes down.
That's a great idea.
So I was trying to pull the eye.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I love that. Well, it's beautiful.
Thank
really
you.
Beautiful. Can you tell us about any exciting developments or future plans you have?
Yes. So I trialed making a cider wine this year.
I would love it. I was going to say I want to find out more about what you brought today too. So, do you want to pour that?
Sure.
So just for any listeners that don't know, I started 75 Hard 2 days ago because I'm crazy. So I will be smelling this, and then I will be meeting up with you in 73 days, and we can have a drink. Does that sound good?
I'll be back. I'll just be here with the bottle.
I would be happy to have you back with the bottle ready to go. Yes. Perfect. So I'm going to smell it. And then I got to find someone else in the office to drink it.
Yeah. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
you're making this hard, Gianna.
It's my first time making cider. My dad asked me to make him Cabernet this year, which is newer for me.
Yeah.
So we fermented 1 ton of Cabernet in an old redwood tank that he brought me to the cellar.
That's amazing.
Yes. My dad calls winemaking fancy farming. Didn't want to be in it at all. Right. And then somehow I'm doing this project.
You've probably intrigued him so much. Yeah.
It took only, a while, but it's okay. So after making the Cabernet wine in the redwood tank, I pressed the grapes. And so I had dried skins.
Okay.
And I fermented the apple juice on those dried skins.
Wow.
And then once that was done as a wine, I blended orange wine from Chardonnay, which is just skin contact fermented Chardonnay. And I blended a stainless steel Chardonnay, which is just pressed juice and then fermented off the skins.
That's amazing.
It's actually a cider wine. I don't know. I just had this idea and I was really happy with how it turned out.
That is so cool.
Now it's going to get bottled. I'll probably put it in a sparkling bottle.
Yes.
And I'll probably put a little bit more lees, which is the yeast.
Oh, okay.
And just because I kind of like a little bit more texture for sparkling wine.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
And so it'll be interesting to see how that also ages in bottle.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I definitely want a bottle of that when it's ready. It smells incredible, by the way. Yeah.
The fun part about when it was fermenting just on the Cabernet,
it
reminded me a lot of like Campari.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
So
for
it's
sure.
like, wow, if you can get these like bitter kind of elements from just grape skins and apple juice, it's like, what can I do next year? And the kind of the curious thing, I think I might be becoming a cider winemaker, which is like kind of scary to say, because you can ferment year round, basically.
Oh, interesting.
They'll be pressing apples constantly or storing juice. And so it's like, oh no, like now I can just do all the things.
The creativity and like the science behind all of this is amazing to me. And like I can just see your eyes lighting up talking about this. Like it's so exciting. What else did you bring?
I brought this Chardonnay, which is from Green Valley. And it's the first time I've done it native fermentation.
Okay.
So usually I'll add like a yeast strain.
Okay.
But the fruit was really nice this year and I picked it quite early. I didn't feel like I had any sort of microbial or bacteria type pressure. And I just let it ferment native and it went very slow, but it finally got through. And it's been, I don't know. I like being able to return to native ferments. It's just, I like to know if the vineyard is something that I want to like do that with. So it takes some time to get to that point.
Right.
So
like how much time?
So I've done this 2 vintages prior, and I just learn about the vineyard, and then like I'll make smaller amounts of it, and then once I feel comfortable to do the wine style that I want, that's when I'll try native, which like the 16 Merlot is a native as well, and the 15
I think I've had your 16 Merlot. I might have had both.
I don't know if I brought. But I think I only...
Did I have the 16?
I brought both of them.
I feel like I tasted 2 of your Merlots.
Yes.
Both were delicious.
So the 16 is native and like more in the style of like what I'd like a vineyard wine to be.
Yep.
But when I worked with it in 15, I was worried about like not knowing how the fruit expression would be.
Right.
And so you never... like you have to like kind of trial and error. Yeah. So... especially because it's only one vineyard and one single bottling.
For sure.
Like you can't blend it out.
Don't want to mess that up.
Nope.
No pressure.
No pressure. Just it's all happening at once.
Yeah. You have one other bottle too.
This is my Pinot Noir. This is the 20.
I tried that too.
Yeah.
I think I've tried a lot of yours.
Yes. That's awesome.
Which is why I'm on 75 hard.
Yes. This is, it's good to be informed of all the wines.
Right? You got to try them all.
So this is the 21 Pinot. And that is actually, it's unlabeled right now because I am coming out with like these wines and they're more single vineyard focused.
Right.
And more like kind of special wines that I think, I want to offer and launch this wine club now.
Right.
And so the X here, I'm thinking about making like a drop ripple effect.
Oh, wow.
For single vineyard wines.
How cool.
So if it's like a blend of multiple vineyards, they'll probably keep just this main foil X.
Right.
But if it's a site-specific single vineyard,
yeah,
I'm going to do the ripple effect.
I love that.
So
that is going to look really cool.
And I love it. My mom called me last night because I had put it on Instagram, and she's like, just so you know, that's a spiral, not a ripple. And I was like, oh, my God, Mom, this is why I have you. I'm here thinking I did a ripple.
Totally.
Like, I had just looked at the old branding that we did in like 17 or 16 when we first started like branding ideas.
Yeah.
And I was like,
so sweet.
You always need your mom.
You always need your mom.
She's like, I didn't want to post it on Instagram
because
the comments.
She's like, I'm going to call you.
Yes.
And tell you it's actually a spiral.
Yes.
That's
I was
so
like,
sweet.
I think I would have noticed that once we went to the final design.
True.
But it was like, thank you, Mom.
That is so
my back.
cute. That's so cute. Coming off of wine a little bit, which... Oh, yeah, and I'd love to smell that, too. I can just smell yours, too, if you don't want to waste it.
Oh, it's fine.
Perfect.
I have a whole tank of it.
Okay, good.
So this is Chardonnay that's still, it's in tank.
Wow.
It's going to smell a little bit more fruity and kind of, I don't know, I'd like to say aromatically, like, brighter.
Right.
And then as it gets more close to bottling time, which probably will bottle this more close in the summer or May. So
that's like the perfect summer wine, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's a good thing winemakers are used to drinking by themselves. So
I feel like the worst drinking buddy ever right now. We're going to have to definitely do a redo in 73 days.
Yeah. No, it's funny when you think about winemaking. Like you'll start tasting wine sometimes, like blends, if you're working on them at like 8 in the morning.
Right.
Like,
right. Well, yeah, I'm drinking wine at 8 a.m. And also, like, you were telling me you had done something like similar where you didn't drink for 6 weeks. And I can't imagine in this industry.
Yes.
Like, I'm having a hard time today. Like, I'm interviewing you and I'm like, oh, this all looks so delicious. So tell me, how did that go?
It was, it was interesting because I had never really thought about stopping drinking alcohol, like just like in general, like, like when did I last challenge myself with something like that? And so I did it because I was like, if I have to be able to do this, right? Like, come on.
It's a mental challenge.
It's not like forever.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I did it at Vertex in Santa Rosa.
Right.
Yeah. Gordon's the owner, personal trainer, and he does like this whole like food guide.
Amazing.
Like I think it's about 2 days, or you can go to the gym as much as you want, but like 2 days for sure, like training, and then an at-home app.
Cool.
And you even had to send like your food pictures.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
To him or in the app?
In the app.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And so we'd all give like food ideas,
That's so fun.
I definitely got creative with the food. Like he was like, you should write a menu for us, because I was like, this is another challenge.
You're like,
right?
Yes, I will totally write a menu.
Yeah. I was like trying
I need to meet him, by the way.
No, he's great.
Have him on.
Yeah, you'll have to bring him on.
Yes. Yeah.
I've never gone to a gym really. I never was like, I want to go work out. Right. My work was my workout, like in harvest.
Oh, it literally is a workout.
Since I don't work full time anymore for a winery, I was like, oh, I need something that is physical. Challenging. And so I did it, and I was like, I actually really enjoyed it.
Very cool.
It wasn't as I imagined, like just people pumping iron, and you're just like in the corner, right?
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes. No.
Very true.
In fact, it was interesting because he would watch everyone and how they worked out. And he would give them specific things to do. Yeah. Because of just how your body moves or how you like lift things. So
it's so beneficial to have that. Yeah.
No, I feel like I would hurt myself if I went to a gym by myself. That's probably why I don't go. I'll just walk outside.
Right. Exactly.
I'll take a walk.
There you go. Yeah. Well, that's exercise too. That's part of the 75 hard is like the 2 45-minute workouts, and one of mine is definitely a walk.
Walking is it's safe.
Yes, it's safe.
Yes.
It's safe. So probably like every listener's favorite question, but every interviewee's least favorite. What are 3 fun facts about you personally?
3 fun facts. I love to talk about food and wine.
Love this.
And travel. Yes. So like,
oh, good. We can talk
I do love to talk in general. So that's, I would think that's fun.
That's do have why to you're be on the
cautious.
Podcast.
Yeah. I have to be cautious because sometimes I know I can be a little too much, especially when we need to get things done. What else is fun about me? I think my experience in Italy, like working in archaeology.
That's incredible.
Was a lot of fun. And I wish I could have done that sometimes, but then I realized like my life would be so different if I had. And I'm really happy where I'm at now, like with my kids and, living in Sonoma County. Right. I think it's absolutely amazing. Like I grew up near Lodi area. I love it. Yeah. Central Valley, but it's just we're just so spoiled here.
We're so spoiled.
Yes.
I always think that. And I remind my kids that. Like, we are so lucky to live here.
When my mom visits, she calls where she lives a food desert. So
she comes here and is just ready
like
to eat her way.
Yeah, she's just like, you guys just have so many options.
I mean, we do though. We're very, very lucky. I always say like when we go travel, I'm so excited to eat different places. And then I go, I kind of ready to eat at home again. Like I love the food at home. Yeah. So there's actually a book, and I really am embarrassed that I can't remember the title of it right now. Where she's an archaeologist who ends up not going into the field but goes back, and it's like almost like a sliding door story. Like if she had chosen that path, what her life would look like. And when you just said it, I just like popped back in my head. So I'm gonna try to figure out the title of that book for you.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a really cool. I've considered it. Like
I mean, you got a lot of life left. You could always go back.
Yeah.
Maybe when your kids are a little older.
Yeah. I think the other interesting thing about me is like I'm really not afraid to like try to pivot or change. Yeah. And like I like the challenge. And sometimes I think life gives you a big challenge, and you get reminded how much you like keep looking for challenges, and you're like, okay, maybe I need to stop. But then I don't stop. Yeah. So
you probably, it's like enjoying that, finding the solution and figuring it out.
Yeah.
The mental challenge of that. That's
definitely
really cool.
Which is what harvest can tend to be. It's
every year is probably so unpredictable.
Something different.
Yeah. That is really interesting. I love that. Towards the end of each episode, I like to ask if there's anybody you'd like to give a shout out to that's really helped you with your career.
Yeah, I'd have to say Chantal from Flowers.
For sure.
Who's definitely, you know, like, I don't know if you have this experience when you meet someone and like you guys kind of butt heads at first.
Right.
And then you end up becoming really close.
Aww, yeah.
I've had that happen quite a bit through the wine world because I think we are always trying to figure out a puzzle that might not even be there yet, right? Like we're always like thinking of what could happen next. And so like throughout, since I've known her since 2012 now at this point, and like working with her and then, you know, not working with her and now working with her again, it's been like so cool to like see the differences. So
wow, that's especially over such a long period of time.
Yeah.
That's
but she's been at Flowers ever since 2012.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she kicks butt there.
That's so great.
Yeah.
That is so great.
And Sonoma State was really supportive for the wine business program.
Yeah.
So Ray Johnson, if anyone's ever met Ray Johnson, they know immediately who he is. He's like one of the nicest people I've ever met.
That's amazing.
So,
that was my school, but not wine. I was psychology.
Oh, well, it's a great school for psychology
it's a great
too.
school. It's a great school for. I love Sonoma State. Once again, we're spoiled to have that right in our backyard.
Very spoiled.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but and how amazing to have a college with a wine program.
Oh yeah,
that's so great.
No,
yeah,
it's great.
Yeah. So, finally, where can my listeners find you if they want to follow you, if they want to shop?
Yeah,
taste?
I would recommend following me on Instagram.
Great.
Drink Wander is what my handle is right now. And once, you know, I'm launching the wine club this next month. So it'll be like a whole new avenue for me to like get wine to people.
That is so
and,
exciting.
Like I secretly didn't want to launch a wine club ever in my life just because of like the logistics.
It's a new challenge.
But it's, you know, like it's time. I have these really cool vineyards I'm making established relationships with cool. And I want to sell more more wine, obviously.
Yeah, of course, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure for business reasons, but also just to get your wine out into other people's hands. It's like so exciting.
It is. It's interesting when someone drinks, like when I drink wine with someone I made. Yeah. I actually have this weird like, oh, I made it. Like, you know, like
I get like nervous. What if they
don't
like
kind of
it?
Nervous.
Yeah.
Also, because when you make wine, especially in like a larger facility, you're kind of trained to hate the wine. Like you're always nitpicking
your wine.
Oh yeah, you're like, oh, if we would have done this or this isn't right. Like we're always looking for like potential problems, like just to like prevent future problems.
Right.
Instead of just being like, yeah, we made a great wine.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe you need to do more of that in 2024.
Yes.
Like, yes, this wine
This wine is
good.
We
did a great job.
Yeah.
Like
which is, it's hard to like the cider wine for me. It's like something I really am like, wow, I really like that. And it's hard for me to be like, it's okay to like it.
Exactly. No, it is okay to like it. Well, I'll let you know after I try it, but it smells amazing.
Good. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
it's definitely
that
fun.
is so cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It was so good to get to know you and to hear more about this. I feel like so many of us just drink wine, and especially when we do grow up in Sonoma County, and we don't always know everything that goes on behind the scenes. So it's great.
It's like everywhere where we are right now, right? Sonoma County is pretty much grapes.
Yes, everywhere you go. Like literally, I go on a walk and just outside of my neighborhood, right across the street, is vineyards for days. Yeah. Like it's just amazing.
It's great.
My kids, like, I always tell them, like, when you're playing on the playground at school and all those vineyards are right there, that's not normal for the rest of the world. Like you go to school in a beautiful place.
Yes,
like, I know. We're very lucky. So.
My toddler can tell when the grapes have been picked or not.
Oh,
like,
cool.
Just because she's like so in tune with the vineyards now. Just we'll be driving, she'd be like, there's no more grapes there.
What an incredible lesson too to like pass that on and so that they have that understanding of farming and where everything comes from. So very lucky.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
This is
so
a lot of
much
fun. It's my first podcast.
Yay! Oh, I love that. Well, you did a great job.
Well,
so
I can talk, right?
That's fantastic.
That's a gift. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to wine taste with you like while you're pouring because I feel like you would just talk like in a great way. You would be so chatty.
There's a lot of things. I mean, food and wine are so hand in hand, and
for sure,
for me, winemaking is cooking, and so like I'm always trying to compare it to something that know you've tasted before, right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Gianna.
You. Yeah.
And thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, please be sure to like and subscribe, learn more about Sonoma County and all that we have to offer here.